circus, raised to be a freak on purpose. Under the sheets, you know I'm lurking, you know me. Do you like what you see?
What up, man? Welcome back to the channel, guys. You'll have to excuse me. I am kind of full of nicotine and caffeine, and my heart is racing. Welcome back to the garage, guys, man. Today, we're gonna be assembling one of the best engines ever freaking made. Oh, hold up, that's actually the LS engine, isn't it? Well, I did say one of. You know what? One of the best engines that Honda has ever made. That is my B20. Be careful there, commenters. I'm just trolling you. You no need to get all up in your feels, you know what I'm saying? Not for real, guys. It's time to get this damn engine assembled. This is gonna be my first time ever doing that, and I need to pre-warn you guys that I'm probably not gonna do everything 100% correct. This is not me trying to teach you how to build your engine. This is just me showing you what it is I'm doing to assemble mine. You know? So be aware that we might completely get this thing done, get it back inside of the car, and then go for a rip, and we might grenade this son. This might turn into more of a home improvement type of channel, installing windows. Yo, fingers crossed that that's not what happens here, but you know, it's a possibility. Stepping outside of the box, moving out of my comfort zone. Gonna do things that I've never done before. All right, so I have made myself an order of operations here, man. A list of things in which we need to do. So starting off, we are gonna need, whoa!
Hold up.
That's the wrong list, bro. We'll just get rid of that there, buddy. All right, number one, we are gonna need to hone the cylinders. Number two, we're gonna be gapping some rings. And number three is clean, clean, clean. So I am fortunate enough to be good friends with Cody from JB Engines, in which he has been building engines for many years. And he has shared a lot of his vast knowledge of assembling engines and his experience and the things that he goes through in order to put an engine together. So I want to put it out there that what it is we do here today is not a reflection of his work in any kind of way. He just simply tried to give me some advice for a person who is assembling his very first engine. Hell, to be honest with you, he offered to do it himself, in which I declined because I need to learn this. You know what I'm saying? I need to do this myself. I need to step out of my comfort zone, and I need to, I've said it enough. I need to do it myself, buddy. But he did tell me that one of the main things about a good a good practice in assembling let me start over, Jesus Christ. He did tell me that a very good practice when assembling engines, and something that is extremely crucial, is to be clean, clean, clean. So we need to go through and actually clean all of the little oiling ports and all that stuff. You got to make sure to get absolutely all of the debris out of not only the block, but also like the crank. We're gonna need to go through and blow some brake cleaner and stuff all through here, some compressed air. We got to make sure that we get absolutely any potential debris out of these parts. So I am obviously going to do that after we do the honing, because the honing is going to create debris after we file the rings if we need to, because that is also going to create debris. So that is the reason why it is going to be third on the list, and that is clean, 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 because that is going to be just before we start our actual assembly process, in which we will be installing the crank first, and then secondly we will be installing the pistons and rods, and from there everything else is pretty much downhill. The oil pump, the front seal, rear main seal, you know, oil pickup, and you know, like all that kind of stuff. That's all easy. That's all stuff that I've already done 100,000 times. So my goal for today is to simply get through this checklist. Step one. You see this B20 block? Oh, it's upside down here. Let me turn this motherfucker up right now. I'm gonna take me a little bit of acetone on a rag, and I'm gonna actually wipe the cylinders down really quick first, just to get any dust or whatever off of them. Show you guys a really quick before of the cylinder walls. I'm sorry, my lighting in here kind of sucks, bro, for like seeing down inside of like something like this. But yeah, the cylinder walls aren't the greatest. You know, you don't really see any kind of cross hatching left over from whenever this thing was assembled last. So So we're gonna be putting some cross hatching back in there with a hone. And I have a flex hone sitting here. Now, you guys remember how I mentioned that I'm not necessarily gonna be doing everything 100% correct. So I do have this flex hone sitting here. This is a dingle ball flexor, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's a dingle ball flex hone. The only issue is you can buy these in different sizes, obviously for different size bores. So this was actually purchased for an LS engine, in which Braven has already used this, and he honed all 8 cylinders on his LS block. So it has been worn down ever so slightly from use, but it's still good. I'm not gonna share the sizes and everything right now myself, but if you look up the stock bore size of a 5.3 liter LS engine and the stock bore size of a B20 block, the B20 block is ever so slightly smaller. So it is fair to say that this is a little bit larger than what you would actually use on this block, but like I said, this thing flexes a lot and I'm using it. I don't give a shit. I just recorded this whole damn scene and I didn't freaking press record on the camera. God damn. Anyhow, like I've already explained, I'm going to do it again. If anybody wants to look up the stock bore size on a 5.3 liter LS engine and the stock bore size on the B20 block and put it in the comments down below, I'd appreciate that so that we can all just go through the comments and see it. And if somebody does do that for me, make sure to like the comment for them because they got to put in a little bit of work to do so. Anyhow, the way a flex hone works is you hook it up to a drill. I've only used one of these one other time. And you want to enter the cylinder spinning. So you want this spinning as you go in. I'm going to do 4 passes on each cylinder to start off with. And then I'm going to inspect it and see if I feel like that's good enough. If it's not, then I'll probably go back and do another 4 passes or 2 or 3, whatever, however I'm feeling, you know what I'm saying? So you want to enter spinning, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 passes down the entire cylinder, and then I'm going to pull it out, and you want it spinning the whole time as you go in and as you come out. You don't stop the drill until this has come out of the cylinder, and you gotta lube her up, bro. We already wiped the cylinders down, got all the dust out of them and everything. Now we're gonna spray them down with some PB. Also gonna spray down our flex hone, get it nice and wet. We're gonna make an absolute mess here, man. So if you guys notice, I have my engine stand sitting on top of a piece of cardboard for catching all of this mess. All right, here we go. Wish me luck. I'm probably about to fuck this thing all up, but it's all right. Ooh, dude, that makes it look so good, like so quick. All right, that's cylinder 1. That was a lot more difficult to control than I was expecting. Oh man, I'm such a noob. It's all right, you guys can make fun of me in the comments, just don't be too mean. Nice. Goes number 3. All right, last one. So now what I'm gonna do is go through and kind of wipe them off and then take my little flashlight and do some inspecting and see if I'm happy with the amount of cross hatching that we just put in the block. Dude, that thing works, bro. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's nice. Probably did too much, honestly. I feel like Cody is gonna watch this video and shake his head. He's gonna do some face palms, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, Cody. All right, bring it on in here, guys. Check it out. Look at that. Huge difference, bro. Huge difference. All right, I'm just gonna spray this out with some brake parts cleaner really quick. I'm not gonna full send on cleaning this up yet because we still need to gap the rings. All right, so what I'm doing is just going through and pulling the rings, the top 2 rings, off of the pistons, and I am leaving them in the orientation in which I am removing them. So this is the top ring. So I'm going to place this one on top, And this is the second ring down, so I'm going to place it under it. And I'm leaving them all facing up. The side that's facing up is the side that needs to face towards the top of the piston. You know what I'm saying? So I don't put anything back in backwards. I also have left these pistons in the same orientation in which they came out. I'm sure it doesn't necessarily matter, but I just feel like it's good practice to go ahead and do that. So that first piston there came out of this cylinder. That second piston there came out of this cylinder, and so on. Third one came from here. Fourth one came from here. So all of the pistons and rods will go right back in the same exact place that they came from. So I got my ring filer if I need it. So we're gonna check the ring gap right now. If they do need to be gapped more than what they already are, then we will file them. Who knows? I might not even need this thing right now. Like I mentioned, we have our top rings and then we have our second rings. Those are the only ones that we are going to be applying any kind of gap to. The only ones that we're gonna be filing. The top ring, we are going to be looking for a 0.023 in ring gap. And the second ring, we are going to be looking for 0.025. What I'm going to do, so I'm not going back and forward between the two, I am going to go ahead and do all of the top ring first, and then I'll move to the second ring and do them all at one time. I will also be putting each ring in its corresponding cylinder. So we will be actually gapping this ring to the cylinder in which it is going to be installed in. Oh my goodness. I could already tell that is going to need to be filed. That thing's damn near touching. Now with the ring in place, we are going to use a piston upside down, and we're just going to press the ring down into the bore and use the piston to get it squared up. So I still have that bottom ring on here, the oil ring or whatever the hell it's called. I'm going to go ahead and press the ring down until it sits flush on that ring, making sure that the piston is nice and square in there, so then I know our ring is square. Bro, there is no ring gap in this. So to be completely honest with you guys, I was planning on not gapping these rings because I thought to myself, these rings are old, they're not brand new. This engine right here, the previous owner had it turboed, and I've already sprayed a lot of nitrous through this engine. And on top of that, we also just honed it a little bit, so that microscopically takes a little bit away from the cylinder surface. But putting these top rings in here, the largest filler gauge that I can fit between there is 0.013, and we need to gap these out to 0.023. So yeah, we do have to take quite a bit off of the ring. Yeah, I'm glad I freaking checked, bro, for sure, because I do plan on putting a whole lot of nitrous through this engine, and we need some room for growth. Now I don't know how fast this ring filer is going to take material off, so what I'm going to do is actually just give it a couple of passes and then I'm going to check it. I'm going to try to take very small portions off at a time until I really get a feel for how much material this thing removes. You know what I'm saying? For all I know, I turned this thing 3 or 4 times and I have taken a significant amount off. Or I could turn it 100 times and I've barely taken any. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not sure yet. I got to get a feel for it. I finally made it to 23, man. Good Lord, that took a whole lot more grinding than what I was expecting. So that first time that I popped it up there, I spun this thing like 4 times. I ended up having to, like, I try to kind of keep count, so I know relatively around how many times I have to spin that. I mean, of course it's gonna vary because it also depends on the amount of pressure that you are applying on the ring. So I try to kind of keep the same amount of pressure throughout the entire process, you know? But that's one of those things that's nearly impossible to gauge. But I ended up turning that thing 106 times. Maybe I need to apply a little bit more pressure. I don't freaking know. But like I said, I'm just going to continue just kind of taking it slow until I get to the number that we need to be at. I've got 1 ring done. Got 3 more to go. Well, 7 more to go. But you get what I'm saying. All right, all 4 top rings are completed. They are all at 0 or 0.023. So now I'm gonna go ahead and pull those all out, put them back on the counter. I'm gonna make sure to place them on the top so that I know that they are the top ring. Another thing, I made sure that I kept all the rings pointing up. So I'm gonna pull them back out. The side that's facing up right now is the side that needs to face up. I know Cody just told me to make sure that I don't put the rings back in upside down. And I was looking at the rings and I don't see any kind of markings whatsoever to verify like what side is top or bottom. So probably because I'm blind as a freaking bat. But you know what? As long as I'm careful, I won't get it mixed up. So now I am going to do all the bottom rings and I'm going to be doing those at 0.25. Well, that was actually really easy. These are actually already gapped to 0.25. Well, at least my filler gauge fits inside of each and every single one of them. So that just cut my work in half. Well, at least the gapping rings part. So you know what we get to do, right? Moving on, now it's time to get everything clean. So I'm gonna use this tub right here to kind of contain my mess a little bit. And I'm gonna use one of my little Gojo wipes to go ahead and wipe this tub out because it's a little dirty in here from super clean residue. I'm gonna wipe out all the contaminants, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be cleaning the pistons a little bit first because I wanna go ahead and get the rings on here before I potentially end up getting them all mixed up. The little chamber inside of there that the rings go inside of, I wanna make sure that's clean. And for OCD purposes, probably get a little bit of this crap off the top of the piston. Got a wire brush and I got a soft bristled brush. Soft bristled brush is obviously for the piston area from where the rings are gonna be. The wire brush is for scrubbing the top a little bit. You think a red Solo cup is acetone friendly? Guess we'll find out, right? Give you guys a nice little before. I want to get all that off, you know? There's some dirt and grime inside of there, and the top of the piston isn't the most attractive looking thing in the world. Oh, yeah, that's not acetone friendly. That melted. Shit. Oh, baby, now that's beautiful. What's up? Another good thing about the containment tub is now I can take these damn fumes out back, bro, because good Lord. Starting to feel a little high. I'm just kidding, I'm fine. All right, so now, I don't know if you're supposed to do this or not, but I feel like it's probably a good idea to do this. I'm gonna use my file here. I'm gonna put a little bit of looby-dooby on there. Shout out to Puddin'. From filing these rings, I could feel a little burr on the edge. It's not really bad, but I wanna make sure. So I'm gonna push the ring down to where it's just catching the edge, you know what I mean? So I'll catch that edge right there. And then catch this edge. And I'm also going to remember that my ring is facing up right now. So when I flip it, I'm gonna continue telling myself in my head, your ring is upside down. So you just need to pay attention to what it is you're doing if you are like me and you don't have a lot of experience with this, and you wanna make sure that you don't get anything mixed up or upside down, backwards, and this and that. I'm telling myself right now, my ring is upside down. I need to remember that. So now that I flipped it, I'm gonna go ahead and push this side down, file that edge, and then push this side down, file that edge. Just getting a little burr off the edge there. I feel like that's probably pretty good practice to make sure that that's not going to leave score marks in the cylinders. Our pistons are all cleaned up. All of our rings are filed and gapped, and they are now reassembled. I mean, we haven't done the bearing portion yet, but at least the actual piston portion is complete. So now we gotta actually fire this thing up. And yeah, it's pretty freaking loud. We're gonna get this block cleaned up. We gotta get this ready for the crank to go in. I'm actually going to turn this sideways. Actually, do you guys see these oil ports right here? We don't want debris and stuff to go down inside of those oil ports. So if I turn it sideways like this, those holes are going straight down. So I'm gonna turn it sideways in the other direction. So now the holes are pointing the opposite direction, so stuff's not gonna flow inside of it. Now with the block in this position, I'm gonna go ahead and spray all this out with some brake cleaner. I'm also going to be getting inside of these holes where our bolts are going to have to go for our main caps. Ah, son of a bitch! Dun 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 dun. Alright. Now that I've got all the dust and debris on the outside, I'm going to be spraying directly inside of those oil ports, and then I'm going to use my compressed air gun, and I'm going to be blowing those oil ports out to make sure they are good and clean. Whoa! I think the camera's in danger. Pull my hand over it. Now the block facing up, I want to spray compressed air in those same oil galleys, but I also want to, inside of the holes where our bolts are going to go for our main caps, I'm going to blow those out also. Let gravity make sure everything falls out. Any kind of brake cleaner or anything that's in there. I'm going to do the same thing with this oil passage right here that the actual oil pump hooks up to, because as you guys know, that's our main oil supply right here. I want to make sure that this is all cleaned out. Alright, now I do feel pretty confident that we got this thing good and clean, but I'm going to go through and do exactly what it is I just did, but for a second time. So I'm going to go through and do it twice. Hell, I might even do it 3 times. This is for good measure. Make sure that there's nothing inside of here. Another thing, be careful if your air nozzle is like mine and it's metal tipped, it doesn't have a rubber tip. You don't want to accidentally scratch this surface right here where the bearings sit. So you want to be gentle whenever you're going up there. You don't want to just carelessly, you know. Anyhow, I'm going to go through and do this one more time to make sure it's good and clean. And then we got to work on that crank. Alright, now for the crank, we're going to be doing the same exact thing, dude. Just going over it with some brake cleaner, making sure to get all the dust and everything off of it. And some compressed air, especially inside of all these little holes right here that oil goes inside of. We want to make sure that we ain't got no dust or nothing inside of there. Now I got this thing all cleaned up. I'm contemplating on hitting it with Looby Dooby. I don't know for what reason. I guess it doesn't really matter. Nah, it should be fine. Anyhow, I am going to go ahead and bag it because let's face it, the counter that I'm working on over here isn't the cleanest place in the world. and I'm not actually ready to set this in the block quite yet. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put a bag on it. It's not that I'm necessarily worried about it getting dusty in a small amount of time between now and it actually going into the block. But even setting it on that wooden counter, like it could potentially get dust or debris stuck on it, you know what I mean, from the table, so. Alrighty. You see, now I can have this thing sitting up here and feel confident that I'm not just contaminating it and getting dirty once again. Now, we're actually ready to start putting some bearings in. We're going to be doing the installing the crank first, obviously, because the crank has to be in there in order to install the pistons too. So I want to put the block side bearings in first. So even though we did just clean this, Cody recommended that you go through and you clean everything, and then right before you put the bearings in, go ahead and spray it again. Spray it, spray the back side of the bearing, and then install it. You want to make sure there's absolutely zero dust between your bearings and your block and your main cap surfaces where they sit. On these bearings, you can see there are 5 on this side, 5 on this side, and they are very much so different. These ones on this side that has that channel and it has the holes in it, those are the ones that are actually going to go on the block side, because as you guys can see, those oil ports, that is where the oil gets through the bearing to actually lubricate the crank itself. This side, it doesn't have any holes in it. This is the side that is going to go on our main cap, because the main caps don't actually have oil that flows through them. So as you can see, I still have my old bearings on there, and they do not have any holes in them. So yeah, you want to make sure that you put the right bearing on the right side. But on top of that, there's also a little tang on there. You can see on these ones is off to one side, and on these ones it is in the center. So if you just pay attention, it's pretty hard to mess this up. Alrighty, here we go, installing our first bearings. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and spray this off right before I put the bearings on. Grab my first bearing. I'm going to go ahead and spray the back side of it as well. I popped the side with the tang in first. I put the tang in there and held my thumb on there to make sure it's flush with the block. And then you pop the other side in, and you just have your thumbs on both sides and make sure that it is good and flush on both sides. And bang, bang, boy, what's up, man? Those bearings are all done. Making progress around here. All right, so now the same exact thing. Oh, let's go dump this out. Ah, shit. All right, same exact thing with these main caps. We just gotta go through and get them as clean as possible. You just wanna be nice and thorough, make sure they're good and clean. Then pop the bearings in, and we'll be ready to drop the crank in there. Alright, now I gotta go ahead and pop our thrust washers on here. And on these thrust washers, there are grooves in one side and the other side is just flat. You wanna make sure the grooves are facing out. The flat side is going to actually face the block. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and put a dab of assembly lube on there to help it stick, cause it don't wanna stay there, buddy. Alright, we are officially ready to go ahead and set this guy in there. And you see, I don't have to worry about there being any kind of dust or debris or anything on this thing because we put a damn bag around it. Went through one last time, make sure all my bearings are sitting flush, and I'm going to take the compressed air and very lightly just hit it. Very lightly. So I want to make sure there's no dust on them, but at the same time, I don't want to steer a bunch of dust up. So you don't want to use a lot of air pressure, because then everything from the ground will go up like this. Go ahead and coat our bearings. It feels like a lot, bro, but every time I've ever watched any of those assembly videos, these people freaking drench it. I'm out of frame, but I'm also hitting the crank with some compressed air, really lightly. Alright, we're ready to set this thing in here. I gotta make sure I don't bump my bearings around, and I don't want to knock my thrust washers off of there. Ooh, yeah. Alright, so that thrust washer definitely moved a little bit. I'm gonna use a screwdriver and just kind of push it back down flush. Oh yeah, that's easy. Sick. Kind of visually check all of my bearings also. Make sure none of them moved and they're all sitting flush. Alright, so I got on the old Google machine, and I think everybody uses the in the fast lane link. Whenever you look up B series torque specs, it comes up as in the fast lane. Like every time I look it up, I have gotten to that same website, I swear, for like the past 15 freaking years. But going on there, I guess B16 and B20 main caps have the same torque spec. Damn it, now I forgot it. Hang on. OEM mains, main bearing cap bolts. B16 and B20 is 18 foot-pounds and then 56 foot-pounds. I've got this thing set to 18, but to be honest with you, it doesn't go that low. It only goes to 20, so I have it set to 20, so hopefully that doesn't cause any problems. I want to go through and just lightly tighten them a little bit first. I mean, because these mains they have dowels that have to be set in, you know what I mean? So, kind of going through and just lightly setting the dowels in. Alright, here we go. 20 foot-pounds. I mean, 16. Whatever. Alright, now 56. I have officially installed a crank for the first time. I hope it lives. Oh shit. It sure does spin nice. Got the rods all cleaned up, got the bearings all swapped out. These are now ready to be installed. So we are gonna do the exact same thing. We're just gonna drench it with freaking assembly lube. We gotta slide our pistons down through the cylinder bores. I got my dang old ring compressor, and yes, this isn't the best ring compressor in the world, but you know what? It's gonna have to work because it's the only damn one I've got. All right, so a couple of things really quick. Whenever it comes to your rod caps, you have to make sure that you have them oriented correctly, because this rod cap goes on this rod like this. If I flip this rod cap over like this, then it will no longer be a true circle, because these things get machined one way. It's not machined to be a true circle this direction. It's machined to be a true circle this direction. So you got to pay close attention to that. One thing that I noticed, that the hole that is inside of the bearing for the rods, whenever you have them oriented correctly, from my experience so far, the hole ends up being on the same side. So whenever you put this together, the hole is on the upper side right here, and the hole is on the upper side here. And the little tang that is on these end up being on the same side as one another. So you don't have a tang on each side. The tang is on the same side on both of them. That's from my experience on this here. When I took these out of the engine, that's how it was. So that's how I am putting it back in there. It's just another one of those things. Pay close attention to what it is you're doing. But anyhow, now I have a piece of rubber hose here. I'm gonna actually cut this in half because this fits over the studs that are on the rod. This is a little trick that Cody showed me. So whenever you are assembling this, for one, I'm gonna point them out like that. So this is going to, no matter what, guide itself to where the crank goes to the center. But also, this hose is gonna protect the crank from getting scuffed or scratched from those bolts right there. You don't want those studs to come down and come in contact with your crank and scratch the surface. So I need to coat this bearing with some assembly lube. I'm also gonna dump some assembly lube on the crank. As far as my pistons, there are valve reliefs right here. The larger valve reliefs is the intake side. So you want to make sure that you don't put your pistons in backwards either. That's another tip that Cody told me. So the larger valve reliefs goes on your intake side. Oh, look at that. The piston even has an IN on it. I'd imagine that probably means intake, right? I'm going to be positioning my rings opposite of one another. So I'm going to be putting the lower ring on this corner, and then I'm going to be putting the upper ring gap on this corner over here. And once I get those lined up, then I'm going to actually dip this into this oil I have sitting here. This is just regular conventional oil. I'm gonna let the rings sit in. I'm gonna pull this out of the oil so that then the rings are good and lubricated. Then it's gonna immediately go into our ring compressor. And then we're gonna go over there and start tapping away to get these things in. I'm just gonna try to move through this. This is my first time doing this, so I'm just gonna try to focus on getting it done and doing it properly. Those are the steps that I'm gonna take. So I'm gonna set you guys up and I'll see you whenever it's done. Look who's back. Back again. Slim Shady's back. Tell a friend.
Have you got the AC?
It's cooling down right now. Since it's now not even freaking summer anymore. Alright, well, my spring compressor is not working. Cody was explaining to me that there is a technique you can do by just using a flathead screwdriver, in which that's what I'm doing with this one right now, and it seems to be working out pretty good, man. You just got to start at the beginning of the ring, press it in, and then just slowly work your way around till you get each ring set in, you know? Not the easiest way to do it. It's most certainly a pain in the ass, but it's getting done. There it is. First set of rings are in. Those are the ones I couldn't get past with the actual ring compressor, so we are definitely making progress. The next ring. Dude, once you get that damn ring in there, it just goes bloop. Oh. First piston's in. Alright, we finally got that thing in there, bro. And you see now at this point where we have the hoses over those bolts, now I just pull those off. Yeah, yeah. Bang, bang, just like that. We didn't have to worry about this scratching our crank at all. A little assembly lube. I'm gonna reach down here and hold the piston, and I'm gonna make sure that my bearing is still flush. Now we gotta do these at 14 foot-pounds and then 23 foot-pounds. Well, god dang there, buddy. We assembled, well, I assembled my very first rotating assembly, man. So, got the pistons, rods, crank, everything is in there, and it seems to be spinning pretty good. I mean, I don't know, it feels normal. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here because I actually have some other things I gotta get done tonight. I'm gonna be busy as hell, but we are gonna pick right back up on this thing tomorrow and get it the rest of the way assembled, get the head on it. Hopefully, if I have time, get some stuff painted because we gotta get this thing ready to go into khaki. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do smash the like button. Don't forget to grab yourself a shirt, the 20% off. Peace, and I'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the late night circus where you could be a free